What happens when the voice of the people is silenced by a bullet? What happens when a nation, already on edge, watches its strongest warrior fall, not in battle, but in cold blood, on his own doorstep? This is not just the story of a man. This is the story of a country that stood at the edge of civil war, and the single death that almost pushed it over. His name was Chris Hani, a freedom fighter, a soldier, a leader, who rose from poverty and pain to become the heartbeat of the resistance against apartheid. But on April 10, 1993, everything changed. A white extremist pulled the trigger. A nation held its breath. The dream of democracy nearly died that day. This is the story of the man whose death almost broke South Africa, but whose legacy helped save it. Chris Hani was born Martin Thembisile Hani in a small town called Kofimvaba, in the Eastern Cape, in 1942. His father was a migrant laborer, his mother a domestic worker. Chris grew up surrounded by inequality, white privilege enforced through apartheid, black suffering, baked into daily life. But he wasn't like most children. He read Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin at 15. While other boys dreamt of football, Chris imagined revolution, but his intellect made him a threat. Despite being one of the smartest students at the University of Fort Hare, he faced police harassment. He joined the African National Congress, the ANC, and eventually its armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, MK. That choice would set his life on fire. Originally dreaming of becoming a priest, Chris instead chose the path of resistance. In 1962, he joined MK and was sent abroad for military training. He trained in the Soviet Union, fought alongside Zimbabwean rebels in Rhodesia. He wasn't just trained, he was tested. But South Africa's apartheid regime labeled him a terrorist. In 1967, the government intercepted a letter he had written, criticizing a military strategy. They wanted him dead, so Chris went underground. He became a ghost leader, one who inspired from the shadows. By the 1970s, Hani was in exile. While Oliver Tambo handled diplomacy, Chris built the military. He rose to chief of staff of MK. To his soldiers, he was more than a leader. He was a brother. He spoke their language, ate their food, marched their miles. But not everyone loved him. Some in the ANC hierarchy feared his popularity. Others thought he was too radical. Therefore, his rise wasn't smooth. Came with whispers, sabotage, and deep political jealousy. When apartheid began to crack in the late 80s, Chris returned. He had left a revolutionary. He returned a legend. Crowds chanted his name. The youth looked to him, not Mandela, as the real leader. He supported negotiation, but he also understood the rage of the township youth. But that made him dangerous to the white establishment, to rival black leaders, to those who feared a South Africa led by fire, not forgiveness. And yet, he stayed, speaking peace with one fist, promising justice with the other. On April 10, 1993, just as South Africa was preparing for its first democratic elections, Chris Hani was assassinated outside his home in Boksburg. Their goal? To spark civil war. And it almost worked. The country erupted. Black South Africans prepared for vengeance. White South Africans feared a bloodbath. The peace talks teetered. The nation was burning. Chris's blood soaked more than the pavement. It soaked the fragile trust South Africa had begun to build. But then, Mandela stepped forward. "Tonight, I am reaching out to every South African," he said. It was Mandela's voice, steady and commanding, that pulled the nation back from the edge. Mandela became the bridge. But Chris became the martyr, the symbol of what could have been. Therefore, South Africa didn't just mourn a man. It mourned a possible future. Chris Hani was buried a hero, but his legacy remains unsettled. Some say South Africa lost its best chance at radical transformation. Others say his death paved the way for peaceful transition. He remains a name whispered with fire, a revolutionary who didn't bend, a leader who didn't blink, and a man who believed that freedom was not to be begged for, but to be taken. Chris Hani didn't live to see the South Africa he fought for, but because of him, millions did. Chris Hani teaches us that conviction is louder than comfort. He could have chosen an easier life, but he didn't. He chose purpose over power. And in a world full of compromise, Hani reminds us that some things are worth standing for, even when it costs everything. Let his life stir our courage. Let his death sharpen our focus. And let his name forever echo as a call to act, not just speak, to build, not just dream, because freedom is not a gift, it's a responsibility. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share, comment, and subscribe for more untold histories. Who should we cover next? Until next time, keep seeking truth and remember freedom has many faces and Chris Hani is one of them.